Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlos here. This is going to be a revival of my Pokemon Type Talk, which is facts, stats, trivia, and a top 10. Today we're going to be looking at the normal type. I feel that even though I've already reviewed normal, it's a great place to start again because the normal type is a very consistent typing. First off, we're just going to kind of go and look at the typing matchups. You only are weak against fighting and you are immune to ghost. It's a very simple type to talk about. Everything else is going to be a neutral hit, and offensively speaking, we don't have any super effective hits. We're only going to be resisted by rock and steel, and we're going to be immune by ghost. So you don't really have to memorize too much when thinking about the normal typing. Now with this new type talk, I'm also going to show the fully evolved stat breakdown for that type and its comparison to other types. So hit points, going to be third highest for normal typing, but the rest doesn't look that great. That we have 9th on attack, we have last for defense, last for special defense, almost last on special attack, and okay on that speed. But overall, we are next to last for total base stats on average, and that's mostly because there are a lot of beginner Pokemon for the normal type that you encounter early on in your journey, and also because there are a lot of Pokemon that just don't have an evolution, just single stage Pokemon, and that could bring the stat total down. Now when we go and look at some other trivia facts about these Pokemon, Blissey is going to have the highest base stat, single base stat of any Pokemon with the hit points, and that is going to be a normal type Pokemon. We also have Arceus just being the highest base stat total Pokemon that is not a Mega in general, also a normal type. Fun fact about Arceus, it only changes its type whenever you equip a different plate onto it, so it technically counts as a normal type. When we look at the legendaries, there are only 3 normal type legendaries. However, normal type Pokemon make up 13.2% of Pokemon. As we can see, it is the second most amount of Pokemon in the game for a single type, and that just kind of shows why we might have some weird base stat distribution overall. Some fun facts about the normal typing is that it has the most moves out of any type in the game. 172 normal type moves exist, and that's generally because normal moves default as status, or a lot of status moves are normal type. And also, if you have the Scrappy ability, you can hit every Pokemon in the game because it goes through your immunity to Ghost. And despite having the 3rd most hit points for all fully evolved Pokemon, the normal type has the highest average hit point stats of all Pokemon because of Pokemon like Chansey and some earlier form Pokemon still having a lot of hit point bulk for the type. Now before we get into our top 10 list, I'm going to talk about the Pokemon's attack coverage. For the normal type, there are going to be 44 Pokemon with no effect. Even though there are 35 ghost type Pokemon, Pokemon DB counts like Pumpkaboo's forms and Giratina's forms and Aegis Blade and Aegis Shield, so the number might seem a little more than it is. Other than that, you have 95 not very effective hits for the Rock and Steel type Pokemon, and then just the rest are going to be neutral hits. As we talked about this before, very consistent typing. Okay, now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for, the top 10 normal type Pokemon. I'm in Pokemon Showdown. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pokemon, and let's lead this list with the top Kecleon. Kecleon is a really crazy Pokemon. With its Protean ability, it can actually adapt from a normal type into many other types, and with its solid defensive bulk and special defensive bulk, we can make this a very tanky Pokemon that has a lot of setup options, and its Protean ability means it has 50% more attack. Everything it's going to throw will have stab, and it does have a lot of priority. So I mean, you just lead with a Fake Out, you go into a Sucker Punch, you go into a Shadow Sneak, and now you have priority, so really your low speed doesn't matter, and you also have Power Up Punch. So now you grab some stats in this Pokemon, Fake Up Power Up Punch into a Sucker Punch or a Shadow Sneak, generally results in a KO, and if you kind of play it up with a Life Orb or something else like that, while investing in the hit points, this Pokemon becomes very scary and very terrifying. Number 9 is going to be Cinccino. Cinccino, what makes it really strong is its skill link ability. Multi-hit attacks will always hit the maximum number of times, which is 5, and it also has 115 base speed. So it outspeeds a ton of Pokemon, has skill link, and there's a lot of there's a lot of moves that go with it. Rock Blast, Tail Slap, Bullet Seed. This Pokemon is able to get the full use out of its skill link and have some really good coverage going with it. But what makes it super broken is throwing a King's Rock. The holder's attack without a chance to flinch gain a 10% chance to flinch. This counts for each time that a move like Rock Blast, Tail Slap, or Bullet Seed is used. Therefore, we get 5 instances of 10% chances to flinch. Math says it comes out to around 40-something%. So this actually turns into a miniature Togekiss. Like if you're using Togekiss for that Serene Grace Scarf shenanigans and you try to flinch your opponent, Cinccino pretty much does the same thing. Also, you can use Thunder Wave on your opponent to really lock them down, and it's like, okay, now you're taking a lot of damage from the high base power of these moves. Tail Slap, getting its stab bonus becomes super absurd, and on top of that, you have a pretty solid chance to flinch. So Cinccino can shut down some slower teams really well. Next up, we have Porygon 2. Porygon 2, even though it's not a fully evolved Pokemon, is super strong because of the Eviolite. Eviolite is going to boost its defenses since it isn't fully evolved, and now we have all these natural tanky stats. 90 and 95 for the defenses with 85 on the hit points. That's some ridiculous bulk. Porygon 2 also has some other things going for it. Analytic means you don't even have to invest into your special attack to give it a lot of power, even because it's already a 105 base special attack, so now we're getting some damage on top of that, and then we have some other moves. That's Toxic, it can stall out really well. Recover, as well as a stupid amount of coverage, like Ice type attacks and your normal type stab for the Tri-Attack. So Porygon 2 is going to come through very strong and just be a very tanky backbone that can heal itself up. Number 7 is going to be Staraptor. I've compared Staraptor to Talonflame in many times, and that without the Gale Wings ability, Staraptor is just going to be better than Talonflame because it has more damage, you can get more speed on that Scarf, and what makes this Pokemon really strong is the Reckless ability. So Reckless Staraptor has a ton of power with that Brave Bird, can also transition with that Double Edge, and best of all, you can even use it in doubles as an Intimidate Pokemon, or just a gimmick Pokemon with Final Gambit. This Pokemon has a lot of high damage threat, and a bit of diversity as long. This Pokemon can be a high damage threat, a decent coverage threat, a gimmick threat, supportive. It has a lot of power that it can use for your team, and that's why I put it number 7 on the list. Number 6, I gotta put it on the list somewhere, and it's going to be Snorlax. Snorlax back in earlier generations used to be incredibly broken because of Stockpile. Stockpile is going to boost its defenses, and since it already has a ridiculous amount of hit points, we're just going to become an untouchable tank. Now in recent generations, more powerful Pokemon have been released, thus reducing Snorlax's power, but overall you can do something like Stockpile Belly Drum. Get so tanky that they can't do enough damage after you Belly Drum. You have Rest, which means you go into a Rest with a Chesto Berry, and then you can just keep playing up from there with a move like Fire Punch, Crunch, Body Slam. Some of these moves can be immune by other Pokemon, but overall, we have just a lot of power coming from this. You also have Curse sets, you have Curse Amnesia sets, you can do Custap Berry self-destruct gimmicks. There's a lot of crazy things that Snorlax can do, but once it sets up, your opponent is in for a very hard time. Now, if you remove the fighting type Pokemon on your opponent's team, you can pretty much get an easy win with a Snorlax. Number 5 is going to be Mega Kangaskhan. Mega Kangaskhan is a Pokemon that a lot of people fear because of its Parental Bond ability. It's pretty much a free choice band on a 125 base attack Pokemon that procs other abilities or other moves twice. So you use Power Up Punch. Now you're doing Swords Dance with your free choice band that lets you change up your moves. That's a little scary right there. Also, Kangaskhan, it can, before it Mega Evolves, has its Scrappy ability, so you at least get to fake out Ghost-type Pokemon in doubles and then transition to a lot of damage. You have Sucker Punch, that way you can deal with those Ghost-type Pokemon. You have Crunch. You have a lot of other options, and then you just go into Return or something like that. If you're using Return, it's going to hit twice, going to have Stab, going to be just absurd, and then you can also put Facade on Kangaskhan. If you put Facade and get Burn, now you're just getting more damage on your opponent, and the burn doesn't bother you as much. The drawbacks to Kangaskhan are that it only has 100 base speed, so you can find some outspeeds, and if it hasn't set up on that Power Punch, you might be able to get some damage through its Sucker Punch, or you can play setup around it with a Ghost-type Pokemon. That if it only has Sucker Punch, it can't hit you with Return, it can't hit you with Fake Out, can't hit you with Power Up Punch, can't really do too much to you, so there's some give and take that you have to make with Kangaskhan, and each set does have its vulnerabilities. Now let's go and get a new list started as we go into number 4. Now I'm saying Ambipom. Ambipom is a very fast Pokemon that has a surprising amount of damage. That if you go Life Orb Technician, maxing out attack and speed with a Jolly Nature, Fake Out does stupid amounts of damage, and then you have some other coverage options with Ambipom. My favorite is just going Last Resort. Sure, this like completely blocks you out by Ghost-type Pokemon, but Fake Out and Last Resort, that's a quick KO. Last Resort by itself, because it's 140 base power getting stab bonus and a Life Orb boost, is enough to find neutral KO hits on a lot of Pokemon, so pretty much Ambipom can come in and clean up anything slower than it pretty easily. If you don't want to run that, you still get some crazy coverage like Ice Punch. You can find all these other things. You have options to stab, return, and you can just kind of do a lot of other things with knockoff. So Ambipom is a very strong combo Pokemon that Fake Out into a move and then also following through with that at least makes it to where Ambipom has a very high chance of going 1-for-1 or maybe even more. That if you put a Focus Sash on it, Fake Out Last Resort without the Life Orb boost, that's a KO. Last Resort, take a hit, survive, Last Resort, that's a KO. And then if you're still outspeeding, Ambipom does some really scary things. So very overlooked Pokemon, but I'd say one of the strongest normal type Pokemon in the game. Next up at number 3, we have Smeargle. Now the reason I put Smeargle at number 3 is because it can become anything. That in singles, you can use it as a baton passer, you can use it as a entry hazard setter, you can use it as a spore Pokemon. In doubles, it's your legal Dark Void option. Dark Void hits both Pokemon in double battles. Game Freak, why did you make it to where Dark Void hits both Pokemon in double battles? Smeargle can bring that power into a legal battle. And as well as any other things, you can skill swap No Guard into it and then use it for like sheer cold shenanigans. You can use Smeargle for whatever you want. That's the Pokemon of infinite potential. If you need setup, if you need anything else like that, it's crazy. It has the Moody ability, so you can slap Moody on it, maybe gain some speed, outspeed Pokemon with your setup, gain evasion, become impossible to hit. It does ridiculous things, and its potential gives it a lot of diversity, and it leads to so many combo setups that they all haven't even been discovered in the game yet. Alright, number 2. I'm going to throw down Mega Lopunny for the number 2 Pokemon spot. I feel that this is another Pokemon that is severely overlooked. Its Scrappy ability means it can connect with any Pokemon as a normal fighting type. That's a dream come true. Then when you think about what resists normal type, Steel Rock, we talked about that earlier. Oh hey, your stab hits those super effective. What about ghost type Pokemon? That means you can still stab against them because fighting in normal type moves will hit that ghost type because of Scrappy. It's scary. You also have 136 base attack, 135 base speed, and access to a lot of high damage moves. You can do the facade thing. You have fake out, so you at least lead strong. You can support in doubles really well. You have high jump kick, and then you can even throw in an ice punch. Like, the coverage on this Pokemon's insane. The amount of damage that this Pokemon can throw down is ridiculous. It also can just be a fake out last resort gimmick Pokemon that can find a lot of silly KOs into combos and stuff. If you support Mega Lopunny well in doubles, it can just slam through your opponent's entire team, and even normal Lopunny can do some silly things. Also, Lopunny gets access to Cosmic Power, so if you give it the opportunity to set up, it can become now an unstoppable tank, and then it can go and Drain Punch all over your face and have Sustain. So, Lopunny in general is pretty crazy, has Teeter Dance and can do some switcheroo shenanigans, but Mega Lopunny becomes completely absurd. So now what? What could the number 1 normal type Pokemon be? I've already thrown Kangaskhan halfway through the list. Alright, so now I'm going to do the number 1 normal type Pokemon. Gotta say Ditto. Ditto. The reason why it is the number 1 normal type Pokemon is because of the Imposter ability. That it immediately comes in, transforms for free onto your opponent, and now it's your opponent's Pokemon, but stronger potentially. That you throw a Choice Scarf on it, and now it's your opponent's Pokemon, but faster. So if they're doing some kind of setup sweeper, they've used Swords Dance. You copy all those stat boosts, and now you're faster than them, and now you get to destroy them unless they have a Scarf. But even then, that's a 50-50 that you just win out for bringing Ditto. I think Ditto has a lot of diversity that you can also make it as like some kind of tank copier, so you can counter stall them with their stall. That it's the Pokemon like Smeargle of almost infinite potential. That it can do whatever your opponent is doing, have a chance to be better at it, and just copy any of their strongest Pokemon. Therefore, it can be the strongest Pokemon in the game, in that battle, on the field, in whatever. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That is the top 10 normal type Pokemon, as well as just a normal type talk, and all sorts of facts, trivia, and stuff about normals. Hope you guys enjoyed the revival of Type Talk. Leave a comment down below and a like if you enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a nice day.